Tell us about humanity-centered design and how do you approach it in your work?
Those of you who know my work know that I've been very concerned about making things that fit people's needs, that are easy to use, easy to understand. Well, that's very good, and that is nice, but it won't change the world. Yet we are facing major difficulties in the world. In fact, Bangladesh is one of the countries that is most impacted by climate change. All the work that I have done in the past says nothing about that. So I decided that it is time for me to step back and rethink what I am doing and think about what the problems are in the world and how designers can make a difference. Because design is a very, very special field. Design is, first of all, a field that focuses upon people. Second, it is the interface, the interaction between people and artifacts and technology and things that we build and create. And third, design is a very special field because it has no content. Rather, it is a field of methods, a field of trying to understand what is the most important problem we have to solve. And when I am told the problem, almost always I say, no, I am not going to solve the problem. I'm going to ask, why is that a problem? And when you tell me, I will say, well, why is that? Until I discover what the real underlying causes of the problem are. Because unless we face and work on the most important underlying issues, the problem will come back. So simply solving the symptoms of the problem do not make it go away. So I have written a new book, which will be published in English in a few weeks, called Design for a Better World, in which I argue we must have a world that is much more meaningful, that is sustainable, and that is humanity-centered. Now, you asked me about human-centered design, and I'm going to say that that is what I've done most of my life. I focus on making things that work well for people, that we must understand people, we must understand the needs, the resources, the abilities of people, and design for them. Well, that doesn't solve the problems of the world. We have to actually take a much broader picture and design for all of humanity. And by humanity, I mean all living things, and I mean the ecological systems of the world. Because in the products that we design, and I see many of them in the room in front of me, the ones that you are sitting in, with the technology and the several different video cameras and the computer screens, and even the chairs and tables, and even the clothes you wear, are manufactured and made in a way that ignores the impact on the environment. In fact, one of the biggest offenders against the environment is clothing. Because clothing is usually, the way it is, the material is grown or comes from animals, and the way it is manufactured, and the way it is used, and then the way it is discarded when finished, is harmful. It's one of the biggest harms, actually, in the world, clothing, next to energy, next to agriculture. Many different things have contributed to what we are all suffering from today, which is climate change. But there are many more issues in climate change. There has been a very bad history in the world. And what I did in my book was I tried to examine the history that got us to where we are and the evils of the way that the economic system of the world works, the evils of the colonial powers that came and basically made colonies of other parts of the world, and that disrespected the existing people and the existing cultures and the existing government. And that has helped lead to the problems we have because we assumed the world was infinite and we could take resources from the world forever and throw our waste products into the world forever without harm. So that's a very long answer to the question because it requires some piece of history, but I want to reverse that, and we all need to reverse it. And we need, when we do design, to understand the impact, not just on the individual, but on the world.
In your view, how can design contribute to addressing the world's pressing problems, particularly in the context of sustainability and meaningful design?
Well, that's too abstract. So give me a specific example.
Like the one you said, clothing is a problem. If we want to do a sustainable design, then how can we solve it? From where we should start?
So I like to start with nature. And if I take a banana or an orange, it comes in a nice package. Yes, the banana peel, the skin protects the banana. And it's easy to take off, but it protects the banana until I want to eat it. And when I eat the banana, I can throw the peel onto the ground and it decomposes and becomes fertilizer for more plants. The same with an orange. The orange peel is much more firm and solid than the banana peel, and it is more protective of the inside part of the orange, the fruit part, but it is a package. And the orange peel itself, the whole orange can be thrown away and it decomposes to be valuable resources to grow more plants. Now, when we make our clothes, we don't do it that way. We take the materials out of the ground, or if it's cotton, say, out of plants, or from animals, if it's wool. And we make the clothes and we manufacture them in big factories often. And then we distribute them, we sell them, we wear them. And what do we do when we're finished with them? It's a linear process. What nature has is a circular process. And this has come to be called the circular economy. And what we need to do is we need to design so that everything can be reused. So take a look at the television cameras in front of me that's in the room with you. What happens when it grows old? What happens when it's no longer capable of performing well? What do you do with it? Do you reuse it? Do you throw it away in a landfill where it piles up in large mountains of trash that eventually start burning because the batteries heat up and start burning? That's the linear economy. We have to change so that everything is reusable and redone and redone and redone. And that is a circular economy. It is true of textiles and clothing and furniture and technology. The circular economy, which is a very different way of doing business, of making things. It means our job as a designer is not just to make something that works and that helps people, but we have to think about where the material came from. We have to think about how it is processed, and we have to think about what happens at the end of its life. Can we reuse all of the parts? When our clothes are finished with, can we reuse the material and make it into new cloth, new textile, new yarn, so we can spin it into new clothes? We should be able to.
Yeah, I have heard about some projects where people are not throwing away their clothing. Instead, they are selling it. And this way, we are not buying new clothes, actually straight from the factory, but we are using the used clothes. This could be another solution to this problem. What do you think?
Part of the solution, yes, is invent ways of reusing and preventing. The goal is that we should be able to make things that have no waste whatsoever. And even the ones that have waste should be able to be put on the land where they decompose naturally and add to the richness of the soil for agriculture.
The plastics we use every day, single use plastics, they're not being managed properly. Peoples are not aware for that what we are doing with plastics, because it's not disposable easily. So what do you think about this problem?
Well, what you are doing is attacking the problem of the plastics that are disposed and clogging up of the waterways and poisoning the land, and for that matter, particles in the air, which are very harmful for people breathing. But those are the symptoms of the problem. So if you try to attack it by asking people to be more aware or changing government policies, well, what will you actually do? So if I'm aware that plastic is harmful, what can I do? Everything I buy is wrapped in plastic. Plastic is almost indispensable because it is so very valuable and useful. So the real issue is, why are we using plastic? What other materials could we use instead of plastic? So in many parts of the world, banana leaves are used to wrap the foods. And that's a very substitute for plastic because it's a natural organic substance and it protects the foods and it makes it easy to carry. And when you're all finished with the food, you can throw away the banana leaves. And again, they decompose and become fertilizer. Why can't we change how we make plastics? Make them out of organic material that decomposes naturally and does not do harm to the community. So the real issue with awareness is that we don't know what to do. So in the United States, for example, we have huge amount of plastic. And every piece of plastic has a little triangle on it with a number inside. And people think that that triangle means, oh, you can recycle it. We can send it to be reused. But it's not true because the number does not say it can be reused. The number says what material the plastic is made out of, and most of it cannot be recycled. We make milk cartons in the United States out of cardboard. That would be good because you can recycle paper and cardboard. But no, the milk carton is coated inside with a thin layer of plastic. So not only is the plastic harmful, but it destroys the recycling of the cardboard of the milk carton. So we must do more than awareness. We must change how we manufacture things, and also since most of the stuff that you use in Bangladesh is probably made in other countries, the plastics, we have to decide which ones we will actually import and which ones we will not import. That's where government policies can play a role. So what I'm saying is the problem you're talking about is very important and very difficult. And so what I propose is going to be difficult to do, but all important problems are very difficult to solve. Because if they were easy to solve, they wouldn't be problems anymore. Does that answer, is that useful, or do you what do you think?
I think it's useful. What do you think about, is it possible to completely ban plastics from our world in the near future?
Not in the near future. It is just too widely integrated into almost everything we do. I'm looking around the room that you are in to see how many plastics I can see. And there's actually quite a lot. And it's very difficult to change. But that doesn't mean we should not do it. We must do it. So, yes, I think we should ban the use of plastics in general. But the ban may take 10 or 20 years to be effective. Because, among other things, we do not have replacements today. So we have to find good replacements for many of the things. But if we could make things that could be reused, for example, instead of plastic bottles, why not? The two things that are easiest to reuse are metal and glass. And we need to go back to using more metal and more glass. While at the same time, as I said, we should be inventing. That's what good science should do. Inventing new kinds of materials that are biological in nature that automatically decompose. And there's a lot of good work going on in the world to develop this.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Hello, sir. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes.
So I'm working on a project named Vehicle Inducted Noise Pollution and its effect on human health. So it's based on Bangladesh. We need to aware people and to educate people about the traffic noise and the noise level guidelines and how people need to use their vehicle horns and how they react about the situation. So I would like to hear from you that what do you think about this problem?
Noise is a very interesting problem because we make so many different instruments that make noise, that go beep, beep, beep. In the hospitals, the medical devices go beep, beep, beep all of the time. And when something goes wrong, they go, rah, 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 and they make so much noise that, first of all, it causes great difficulty for the patients who are trying to sleep and trying to relax and trying to get well, and the noise keeps them awake. This is especially true with the babies. Yeah, babies are in wards that are very noisy, and yet babies need a tremendous amount of sleep. And the instruments are so loud and so noisy, and everyone makes a different beep, 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 that sometimes what the first thing the doctors do when everything starts beeping is waste time to run around and turn off all of the sounds. So why do we do that? So the automobile, once upon a time, the horn was very necessary because this was a very strange vehicle and people were not used to it. And so get out of the way. I mean, here I am. But the horn is not really necessary. So I have my car that I've had for 10 years. I don't think I have ever used the horn. The only time I've used the horn is when I was trying to remember where it was and then what kind of a sound it made. And so it took me a while to find it. And then I went, bleh. But I've never used it in driving. So why is it that some countries use the horns all the time and some don't? And I was in China once and we took a trip. And when the driver got in the car, the first thing he started to do was go beep, 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 beep. Nobody else was in the car yet, but he kept doing this till everybody got in the car, and then he started the motor, and then he started driving, and the entire trip was beep, 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 beep. And maybe it made the driver feel very important.
Well,
But it was,
I thought about that. If we reduce the horn noise level on the production level, so that would be a solution. But I interviewed with some driver who are driving their bikes on a regular basis. They told that the horn is most important thing on that vehicle. So they need to use it daily. So that is the situation, I think.
yes. So, but let's think about why they need to use it daily and why in some cities in the world, it is not used. And it has to do with the behavior of people on the streets, people driving bicycles, motorcycles, in the United States and maybe there. All sorts of transportation means. It's amazing. Things on one wheel, on two wheels, on four wheels, skateboards, and roller skates. It's amazing what people are using, and they're all going in all different directions, and they're on all sides of the street. And we've learned to try to regulate traffic by traffic lights. It says red, we stop, do not go. But For many people, what the traffic light means is go faster, quick, quick, try to cross the street fast. Well, here is a problem where the real cause of the problem is human behavior.
Well,
And
I
the
also
most-
think
But the most difficult problem to change is human behavior.
yes.
But
So I
it
also
can be done. It
Yes.
can be done.
Well, I also spoke with some bicyclists. They said they don't need any horn to ride bicycle on the road. So I think that it is the psychological problem, human.
It is. And I have been in cities where there is not, it seems like millions of bicycles, but nobody uses the horn. And because people are fairly orderly about the way they drive the bicycles. And moreover, the pedestrians are not allowed to walk in the same place where the bicycles are. And the cars are not allowed. So, for example, in the Netherlands, in Europe, there is a place for cars, and there's a place for bicycles, and there's a place for people. And that means you don't have to worry about horns. They don't get in each other's people's way. So let me think of this experiment. Suppose that you, in your city, suppose that you took away all the horns. You went into the cars and you cut the wires, and you took it off the bicycles. What do you think would happen after a month? Give them a month to get used to it.
Well, if we use a bicycle, then the horn will be gone, I think. So,
What about the car?
yeah.
What about the car?
Car is, yes, continue.
You ought to try. But there is an experiment that was done in Europe to try to make streets safer for people. And the way they made the streets safer is they made them more narrow. They took away all the signs. They took away all the pedestrian crossing places. They took away all the traffic lights. And instead of intersections, they had roundabouts where you went around the circle and get off. And most drivers hate all of this. And it made the streets look far more dangerous. And you know what? Because it looked more dangerous, it was safer. People drove more carefully. They didn't try to take shortcuts. And it turned out that even though they had to drive more slowly, they were able to travel across the city faster because they didn't have to stop. They had to drive slowly, but they didn't have to stop as often. And it may be that if we take away all of the horns, which people think is so necessary, it will make them think, oh, this is very dangerous. And so they will drive more carefully.
Well, then awareness is the solution, I think.
So, but again, here's what let me just give you one more sentence or two. What I am doing is I'm acting like a designer. And what a designer does is try to solve the underlying problem, and not necessarily in ways that seem logical.
Okay.
So if it seems very unlogical to make the thing more dangerous, to make it safer.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much to add some valuable comment. Thank you.
Good luck with it.
During my research, I have taken 15% interview, farmers, businessmen, and importer. So, when I took interview to the farmers, I found few findings or data. They use a lot of pesticide, fertilizer for producing more crops or paddy. So in this case, without using a plenty of pesticide fertilizer, how can we encourage or how can we transform the agriculture industry in order to produce more crops?
So the use of pesticides and different kinds of fertilizers has made a lot of farming better, but it's very harmful to the health of animals, the health of the insects and the plants that live in that area, and the health of people like us who eat the foods. But it has become ingrained in agriculture, and it's the fault of many people. It's the fault of science, which said, pests and insects are eating the food. So let us see if we can invent something that will kill them. So that will save the food. And pretty soon we came to depend upon it. And so the way that we do agriculture today is very harmful to the planet. And it's not the most efficient way of growing, because we're destroying the soil. So the pesticides get into the soil and prevent the soil from, again, being naturally fertilizer with the previous crop of food, of plants. It is possible to completely change farming so that the people who farm what we call organic methods do not use pesticides and do not use artificial fertilizers. And the food is healthier, and it may cost a little bit more money to do, but you save a tremendous amount of money on medical bills. So the country is better. So it can be done, but it was difficult to convince farmers to do this. It was difficult. The industries that make the pesticides, that make the special fertilizers, and that make the seeds, didn't like it, because it was against their interests. And so when I talk about meaningfulness, I talk about the problem of the economic system we have, where the big companies get wealthy by selling more pesticides, which again, it is harmful to humanity. So how can we make them work on, think about humanity? Well, they will make less money. Let me make a comment to everybody. When we study design and when we teach design, we usually think that, well, what a designer does is we design products, or nowadays we design things on the computer screen or television, or we design services and the way that we would treat our customers and deliver goods. And here's a problem where what we have to do is we have to actually become worried about the behavior of not only the farmers, but about the companies and the way that the companies are run. And many of you may think this is not a problem of design, but I say it is. I say that we need a new field of design, a field of design that is not one that is so specialized, I only do graphic design, or I only do interactive, or I only do digital, or I only do services, or I only do products, but one that says, I attack important problems. And I don't care what kind of problems they are. They may be clothing, they may be growing plants and fertilizer and pesticides, they may be noise in the streets, they may be the proliferation of plastics. These are all design problems. And designers have a unique end, because almost every other field tries to optimize time and money. And designers are trying to optimize the lives of people. So I don't know the answers to the agricultural problem, because it's really difficult to change. We have to change all sorts of things, the behavior and the economics and the governmental rules and laws. The same is true of plastics, and the same is true of the automobile pollution, the noise pollution. Those problems are all difficult, and they are all very important. And as designers, I feel we have an obligation to solve them. It's a new kind of design. So we must learn much more than just drawing skills and materials. We must learn about politics and government and business and science and engineering, because all of this comes together. So thank you. I cannot solve your problem, because it's going to take a team of people.
You told, yes, this agriculture industry involve a lot of groups, suppose businessmen, government authority, and lot of people. So yes, it's a major problem to solve the issue. Thank you so
And
much.
that's the future of design. The future of design is working together with all the different kinds of groups. And that's really difficult because you all have different vocabulary and different aims. But that's really important to change the world.
Okay, thank you so much. It was nice talking to you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wahid, sir, for giving me the opportunity. So, hello, Mr. Normal. This is
Hello.
Sheth. So I have I have chosen a topic about to discuss actually. So it's about habit forming digital product. For example, a lot of people are addicted to using social media. Sometimes it seems like this place is their life and there is nothing else actually matters. Sometimes it creates clashes between the person and their family because people spend time with the product more but not with the family. So the designers who are creating the habit-building product, habit-forming product actually, they have access to manipulate user behavior in an unethical way. They have that strength actually. They can abuse it actually. So in your opinion, I would like to discuss that what are the ethical boundaries that designers should observe when creating a habit-forming persuasive design?
This is the numbers, the kinds of questions all of you are asking are all fundamental, important. They're actually the same problems all over the world. Every one of the problems you mentioned is a problem, not just in Bangladesh, but all over the world. And they are difficult. So it's interesting because it was not many years ago when what we taught students in school, especially in business schools, was how important and valuable it was to make your products addictive so that people would buy more of it and would spend more time with your product. And you wanted also to make products that would lock you in. So when I buy an Apple computer, an Apple this and Apple that, I cannot change to a different company because everything is Apple and it would be too difficult to change. All of these rules, which seem really good for business, all of these are really bad for humanity. And so the problem of addiction, the problem of making things that are so much fun, it's the problem is one of them is that when we're working on a problem that's difficult, or even if you're a student and you have to do homework, very few students enjoy doing homework. But even those of us who are enjoying our job, when I have to write a paper and it takes me a month to finish it and I'm stuck in the middle, I can turn on this game and it's fun and it clears my mind, except I can't stop. I cannot stop. I keep going and going. I say I will take a break for 5 minutes, but 2 hours go by. And is this ethical? No. But how do we stop it? Because you cannot say to people it's not ethical. Because one of the answers is, well, it's not my fault that you keep playing. It's your fault. Why don't you stop? Well, it was so cleverly designed that you cannot stop. You know, an author is told when writing a book, when you have chapters, you should never end the story at a chapter. At the end of a chapter should always have something that's it sounds really interesting, and then it stops. And so you have to read the next chapter to find out what's happening. And people make television shows the same way, that the end of the television show, everything is fine, and then suddenly some new problem arises and there's danger and show ends. And that's the addiction to make you do the next one. Is that ethical or not? It's very difficult to decide. And it's actually the techniques we teach people. And that's what we teach people in the games. We make the games so easy, and or you do Instagram or you do TikTok, whatever your favorite or unfavorite social media is, because there's always the short ones are the dangerous ones because they're very short. It only takes 15 seconds to do it, And so it's easy to look at that, and look at the next, and look at the next, and never stop. It's a problem that has worried many of us, and I've been worried about it, and I do not know the answer to it.
I would actually add to that. So I was using a PDF reader application and read a book. So after 1 or 2 hours, it shows that you are keeping pressure on your eyes. So keep a 1 minute break, and they start a timer actually. So in the meantime, I can't use the application. So I found it very interesting, and this is actually all products should adapt, because they are letting me know I am spending more time actually. So I think this is a good example of not abusing the power to manipulate people's behavior actually.
It is true. That's there are many such applications, and they are not usually in the games and the social media. But you're right. Maybe they should be put there. Maybe they should be required that every 15 minutes or half hour you must take a 10-minute pause. But more importantly, maybe you have a regime that after 1 hour you're not allowed to play anymore today. You have to wait till tomorrow. It's interesting that in the automobiles of today, more and more of the automobiles are being automatically driven. There's a lot of automation on it. And so as a result, that the drivers no longer pay attention to the road because the car is paying attention. But cars are not perfect. And so if you're not paying attention, you may have a very serious accident. So what the car is now doing, so I have a new car, and what the car does is it has a camera that's looking at me. And if I am not paying attention to the road, the car will stop. So that's actually very much like having a timer that says, if you've been playing the game too much, I will stop. And maybe that's one way. It's kind of a punishing way, but maybe that's one way to create good behavior.
Thank you so much.
Hi, Don. Thank you for being here today. My name is Khalid. I'd like to ask a question that is about artificial intelligence. So, after the wide popularity of Midjourney AI and ChatGPT, many designers I know are kind of worried that AI will probably replace designers very soon. Also, there is an AI named Galileo AI, which can design user interfaces from text prompt. So what would you suggest designers learn or focus on to prepare themselves for the next decade? Thank you.
So have you seen that short video of mine about AI?
I'm sorry, I did not.
You should. It's very short.
Yeah.
So I think that we are now in another major technology revolution that is going to change the way we work and a lot of what we do. It will change how we teach. It will change the kind of examinations we give and homework that we give. It will change the way lawyers work. It will change the way business people work. It will change the way designers work and engineers. But I want to remind you about the Industrial Revolution that happened in the 1700s in England, when the first industrial revolution was with weaving of cloth. And there are many weavers who used to weave at home the cloth and then bring it to sell to the clothing manufacturers. And they were very concerned that these new factories would replace them. And they were correct. So there was a group, there was a man named Ludd, and the people who followed him were called Luddites. And they just tried to destroy the machines because they felt the machines would stop them from working. And so today we call people Luddites if they don't like technology. But that is wrong because Luddites didn't mind technology. They didn't want to lose their jobs. But the truth is they did lose their jobs. But the result of the weaving industry was that cloth became less expensive and more readily available. And so, although a number of people lost jobs, the number of people that benefited was much greater. So it was good for humanity, but bad for those people. Now, the real question is, as new technologies come and take away some of the jobs that are done by designers, what can the designers do to keep jobs? And what you have to do is you have to learn. For example, the weavers who used to weave the cotton or the wool into thread and then weave the threads into cloth, they lost their jobs because machines could do it just as well as they could, except faster. But if they would have said, well, maybe that's not my business, maybe what I'm really doing is making clothing, and they would have tried to think of new ways of using the machines to create new patterns and new designs and new ways of doing clothing, that's where the business is. So today we have artificial intelligence that can write stories, that can draw pictures, that can solve problems, that can give you information. That, I think, will be that will be a benefit to most designers. So take a look at a mathematician who is doing arithmetic or solving algebra problems or solving calculus problems. Most of them use computers today to do that because the solving of an equation is a mechanical thing. That's not what makes a person a mathematician. It's thinking of the equation in the first place and trying to understand the implications of it. Well, that's the same with designers. Designers who have great skill in drawing and great skill in writing, doing the picture, the plan, and so on. That's not what design is about. Design is creating the idea and making sure it works. And so what I think is going to happen is that these new AIs will be collaborators, and that the people who will lose their jobs are the ones who refuse to collaborate. But if you learn to collaborate with the machine, you will be a better designer than ever before, because the machine cannot design by itself. It needs guidance, and you can be the guide. So the machine plus the person is far more powerful than either alone. And it allows us to do things we could never have imagined before. We have 3D printing. 3D printing is very powerful because you can design things with empty spaces inside the parts so that they're lighter, but still just as strong. People can't figure out how to do that. Machines can. But that means I can tell the machine what I'm trying to do. I need a new table, and it has to be this big. And here's how strong it has to be. And the machine will come up with a weird designs, and you can say, no, that's no good. No, that's no good. Oh, that's very interesting. Can you do more like that? So when you try to use these machines to do something useful, you'd be surprised. It can take a week to figure out how to make it work and get what you want. But that's because you're using your head like a real designer, thinking deeply about the problem and how better to explain it. It's like if you had a helper and you ask the helper to do something, almost always they don't do what you want. So what do? You have to say, no, that's not quite right. It's like training somebody. You have to work with them as a collaborator. That's my feeling about AI.
Thank you.
Thank you, Don. I know we don't have much time in our hands right now. Do you have any suggestions, advice for the Userhub community?
Well, the main thing is the points I made earlier, was that design is changing. And design is really a very narrow field today because designers are mainly working for companies to try to help the companies make better products, or when I include a service as a product. And that has to change. But designers could be in a position of much more power today because the way that we solve a problem, the kind of creativity we have, looking at the problem and trying to understand the fundamental causes and emphasizing the impact upon people, and today the impact upon humanity, is unique to design. And so I believe that we are in a transition where we could do much better things for the world than we have been doing. In fact, a lot of the things that we do as designers is harmful to the world, not on purpose, but because we have not considered the impact on the environment or other people. And I believe that if you really think about it, we are in for a wonderful change because we can be doing much greater good for everybody.
Thank you very much, Don, for your time. I know it is your bedtime now. We're so happy and we're so grateful that we have come. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I very much enjoyed the interaction. Good night or good morning.
Good night. Good night.